Hello, I'm Chris from Genuine Chill, and welcome back to Too Long Didn't Play, where I recap all the cool stuff games have to offer. So, since I finally recovered from that massive headache the Vorman sisters gave me, let's pick right back up. It's been a while since we spoke to our buddy Nox, so since he's in the club, let's go ahead and say hello. Nox finally trusts us enough to let us in on who's his master, and turns out it's none other than Bertram Tong himself. Ain't that a coincidence? Now, Nox tells us about his mission, which is to track an Asian vampire that's been around Santa Monica, but the Asian man caught on to Nox and is now hunting him instead, which is why he ran straight into the club. So here's the thing, normally there's a surprise, but since our vampire has a very sharp eye, she calls Nox out on his bullshit. And sure enough, this entire time, Nox actually knew we were coming. Bertram ordered Nox to get in contact with us and play dumb so eventually he can convince us to take on this Asian vampire. So this entire time, Nox played up his personality to lure us into a false idea of him so he can manipulate us, and honestly, the first time I played this game, I fell for this trick so hard I was genuinely surprised by this reveal. Anyways, Nox stresses how important dealing with this so-called vampire is because Bertram is worried that they'll soon roll into the city and take over. Since I still like Nox, let's go ahead and deal with this little shit. After digging around, we find that our target is inside a factory where he elegantly reveals himself, giving us a bow before our battle. Which, I gotta say, I really like the sign of respect. Too bad I'm not gonna return the favor since I'm gonna turn him into a blood bomb. Oh shit, it's not working. Alright, job's done. Remember, if you can't turn people into biological weapons, just beat their ass instead. Letting Nox know we did the job, he lets us in on something interesting. The man we killed wasn't actually a vampire by our standards, but something different. As Nox describes, it's what China has instead of vampires. That's weird, but maybe we'll get some more info on it later. Now, after all this time, we finally get to meet the man himself, Mr. Bertram Tong in the flesh, and he's got mounds of it. So, yet again, it is time for another clan explanation. Bertram is part of the Nosferatu clan, and as you could guess by looking at him, this isn't a coincidence. The Nosferatu clan are cursed with deformities that make them look like monsters or just plain hideous. As you can see with Bertram himself, he's got mounds of flesh popping out of his head, but not all Nosferatu look like this. Some can actually look pretty normal, such as D'Angelo from Codiaries of New York. Or, to an extent, Jasper from LA by Night, who has black veins covering his face. Because of this, for some Nosferatu, just being seen in public can actually count as a masquerade violation. So to adapt to their circumstances, they have become masters of stealth and information gathering, so they can survive. If you need some dirt on someone or you need something found, the Nosferatu should be your go-to for that info. Oh, and fun fact about the clan that may not be so fun is that they have a rule when it comes to embracing. Only embrace if it's a big step up or a big step down from their previous lives. Later on, we will actually see two examples of that. So Bertram fills us in on the warehouse we need to blow up, which, judging by his intel, the Sabbat have been hiring humans to guard it, and they've been just straight up revealing their nature to those humans. So by killing everyone there, you're technically upholding the masquerade. It'd be cool to stay and chat with Bertram, especially since we did so much to actually meet this guy, but we got a job to do, and we went through a lot of shit for it, as I just mentioned, so let's hurry on and get this over with. The warehouse is located in a train yard, and we have to sneak our way inside. Once inside, it's time to arm the bomb, where we could safely... Wait, this shit's on a timer? Oh shit, oh fuck, move. Okay, I wasn't scared, and there's a giant wolf coming right at us. Fortunately for us, this puppy is actually a vampire named Beckett, and yes, not a werewolf, but a vampire of the Gangrel clan. The Gangrel as a clan are unique in the sense that they're closer or even more attuned to the beast within all vampires compared to the other clans. This leads to the Gangrel to be more animalistic and far more likely to frenzy compared to the other clans as well. But they gain even more benefits from it, which leads to the Gangrel gaining the reputation as some of the most vicious fighters of the clans. Gangrel are also one of those clans that just straight up said fuck the Camarilla and left to become their own independent clan. Although Beckett here is actually very far from your traditional Gangrel, but we will see one later on. In fact, Beckett is actually a unique vampire in general, as he's a historian of sorts. He came to California because his sources are reporting something unusual is going on, and Beckett is here to confirm or deny anything suspicious. So because of this, Beckett is a pretty busy man, so he has to go now. But we can catch up with him later, because honestly, he's a very interesting character. Finally, getting back to Bertram, we ask him what he knows about Beckett, and even he's surprised to hear he's in town, remarking that something big is going down if Beckett bothered to show up. So after 2 episodes, we finally completed our mission, and it's time to head back to Lacroix. Ah shit. On our way downtown, we got ambushed by the Sabbat, who like to break the fourth wall for some reason?
Boys, I think we could all use a little entertainment. Those of you sitting in the first few rows will get wet.
Just in time, we are saved by none other than Nines Rodriguez. And just look at how badass this dude is.
Trouble sure seems to like you. Good effort. Execution needs a little work. You look like shit.
If you remember from the first episode, this is the man who spoke out during our execution trial and saved our asses. But Nines, like everybody else in this game, has things to do, so we will have to catch up with him very shortly, so he could give you the rundown on the Anarchs. Going to Lacroix Tower, oh my god.
Snack cake? What are you doing here? I mean, I gotta admit, I'm a little flattered if you're stalking me, but anyhow, you see where your little security muffins ended up? Night shift lobby sergeant, huh? Hey, stick with me, because I'm going straight to the top, baby.
I'm so wet right now. Okay, no time to get down and dirty. We gotta see Lacroix, as our beef daddy sends us up. Meeting Lacroix again, he's impressed with our work, to the point where he's ready to offer us another big job. Oh, and he also just casually drops how he was an officer in Napoleon's ranks. But, you know, no big deal. Actually, yeah, you know what? That is a pretty big deal. Such a big deal that we will now have yet another clan explanation. Lacroix belongs to the Ventrue clan, and what you see with him is a pretty good example of the Ventrue as a whole. Ventrue pride themselves as the oldest clan, and many of them actually come from bloodlines of nobility or privilege. And with bloodlines like that come positions of power. Ventrue are often CEOs, politicians, and overall leaders within the kindred society. And I say kindred society because it's possible for a Ventrue to not side with the Camarilla. A lot of other clans might not have nice things to say about the Ventrue, but I think Bertram Tong sums it up best. People like to take shots at those in charge, but at the end of the day, you can count on the Ventrue to get shit done. Moving on, Lacroix says there's a growing tension about a cargo ship called the Elizabeth Dane, which I don't think we've ever seen. Never mind. The Dane was found abandoned at sea with the entire crew missing, and not even the Nosferatu can get info on what's going on with it. But one thing is known, and that is the ship was carrying an object called the Arcaran sarcophagus. Lacroix wants us to go to the Dane and confirm the incident wasn't caused by the sarcophagus, meaning we have 3 objectives. Examine the sarcophagus because it's making the kindred population uneasy. Find out what the police know about this situation, and find the cargo manifest for the ship so we can know the full list of cargo it was transporting. Lacroix also tells us this isn't a hit job, and we aren't allowed to reveal ourselves or kill anyone on the ship, so this is a bona fide stealth mission. Before we can set out on our mission, Lacroix is already aware we met Nines and has asked us to humor him and pay him a visit at his bar to see what they want. Going to the last round, we see our boy Jack kicking back, so you know what, let's catch up with him. After telling him the events of Santa Monica, Jack is suspicious of how quickly the Sabbat actually managed to find us, and gives us his own theory on how they might have found us. Jack asks us what we think about Lacroix potentially sending out the word that we blew up the warehouse, because only Lacroix and his people knew you were the one who did it. Jack says he doesn't think Lacroix is working with the Sabbat, but there's a chance he didn't want you to make it back, since from the start, it wasn't his idea to spare you, but Nines forced him to. Jack admits he would never answer to anybody but himself, and he also mentions he would never trust anybody with an X in their name. Which, okay, I gotta admit, isn't really a bad idea. After discussing how Jack absolutely hates the Camarilla, from them enforcing their rules on everyone to their tactics to keep the only select few powerful, we learn Jack himself sides with the Anarchs. Before we go, we let Jack in on our mission for Lacroix, and Jack immediately is interested in what we were told about the sarcophagus. Jack says we haven't been told the full story and lets us in on what's really going on. The sarcophagus is believed to be holding an ancient vampire within it, one dating all the way back to the start of the vampire's history. The reason why this idea is making Kindred nervous is because their version of the apocalypse, called Gehenna, starts with the ancients rising up from their slumber to devour the Kindred population. Keep in mind, the younger the generation, the weaker they are because their bloodline is getting more diluted. But the older the generation, the stronger the blood, meaning they're incredibly stronger than modern Kindred, which is scary seeing how modern Kindred are pretty damn strong in their own right. Jack says he's not really sure if that's what's in the sarcophagus, but gladly wishes you luck and jokingly tells you not to fuck up and destroy the whole world. Moving to the other side of the room, we meet Skelter, and while he's not exactly fond of us at first, he still takes the time to chat us up about a very important history lesson on the Kindred. It's a common belief that Cain, the character from the Bible who killed his brother Abel, is the first vampire, and all vampires from there carry his blood. See, as a punishment for committing the first murder, it was said God cursed Cain and left him to wander the earth. Except the Bible didn't mention that the curse was vampirism, which in hindsight is actually pretty sweet, seeing how older vampires are actually extremely strong. Meaning Cain should have been near invincible. So as Cain went on, he eventually sired his own fledglings, or childs, who would then go on to sire the Antediluvians, who are the founders of the current generation clans we know today. After their history lesson, Skelter asks us if we really want to be part of the Camarilla, which, interesting enough, Skelter is fine with the idea of the Masquerade, but isn't fine with the Camarilla as a group. Speaking of the Masquerade, that's our segue into another subquest. There's a ghoul named Patty, who's been asking people left and right about her sire, causing a commotion by not being subtle enough. Patty's actions are making the Anarchs worried that she'll attract the attention of vampire hunters and blow everyone's cover. And yes, you heard that right, there are vampire hunters in this universe, and they are definitely a threat. Sure, you're stronger than the average human, but you can also be brutally murdered by sunlight while humans can't, so there's an even playing field to work around. Anyways, let's agree to take care of this problem and move on upstairs. At the second floor, we meet my favorite little firecracker in the game, Damsel, and she's got attitude, with spades of it to spare. Damsel stresses how much you owe Nines for saving your ass, and what a tool you are for the Camarilla. After some talking, Damsel cools off and apologizes, letting us know there's an epidemic going on with a plague bearer on the loose. Yeah, this is pretty good timing with the whole coronavirus stuff, isn't it? Well, since the plague bearer doesn't care about spreading a disease, Damsel says the only option is to put it down. Our job is to find a ghoul named Paul, since he hasn't been looking so good and he might have some clues on where to look for the plague bearer. Now that we finally met the crew, let's talk to our boy Nines. Nines compares the Camarilla to a pyramid scheme where the older vampires at the top go on to sire other kindred to do the dirty work for them, who then go on to sire their own kindred to make things easier, and it just continues from there. Nines knows one thing is certain, and that's only a handful of people have any real power within the Camarilla. One thing that really annoys the Anarchs is that the Camarilla like to consider all kindred part of them, even if groups like the Anarchs don't want to be anywhere near them. If you're wondering why Nines has a lot of hate towards the Camarilla, it's because he grew up during the Great Depression, and compares the Camarilla to the rich that screwed over the people during that time. I gotta say, I actually really like this explanation about Nines. It's easy for a character to just have a problem with authority and leave it at that. But Nines has an experience that shaped his beliefs, and knowing his background, we can understand why he has those beliefs. And part of Nines' beliefs are that you should get a group of people together who aren't total dicks, and make an example to the elite that they won't bow down to them. And also, everyone should be equal. That is what it means to be an Anarch. The Anarchs are their own faction within the universe, and this is what they are about. And while the Camarilla plays nice with them, in reality, the Anarchs and the Camarilla won't hesitate to go for each other's throat. We learned that LA is primarily an Anarch state, and in the past they even won a war to kick out the Camarilla. But recently the Camarilla has come back to enforce their rules like nothing ever happened, and that pisses off all of the Anarchs. We have to go now, but Nine says to watch your back, and don't trust Lacroix. He'll be keeping an eye on you, so I guess that means he's interested in having us with the Anarchs. Going to the Santa Monica Pier, we run into a good friend of ours, Mercurio, who looks straight up like a 10 out of 10. Mercurio is thankful for what we did for him, and now offers to sell us his special stock of weapons. Mercurio has also gotten us a boat, and now we can head on to the ship. On board the ship, we immediately fuck up and get caught by a cop. But it turns out, this cop made a deal with the journalist and thinks we're the contact he's supposed to meet. We play it off to take advantage of the situation, and not only does he give us an opening to get in, he also gives us the police report we needed. Once we find the cargo manifest, it's time to find the sarcophagus. But the sarcophagus is actually heavily guarded, so we need to improvise. There's a computer on the ship that controls the camera system, and with that, we can examine the sarcophagus with it. Although this isn't looking good because it looks like the sarcophagus was opened from the inside, and as we could find pools of blood around the ship, it seems like Jack's theory might be right. Now we get our ass off the dame and head back to Lacroix so we can...
Hey! I know this might seem creepy and all, but please don't blow me off, okay? Someone told me I could find you here. I mean, I've been looking all over for you since that night. Because I just wanted to... I'm in your debt.
Ah, shit. So, if you remember from the first episode, this is the woman we saved by giving her some of our own blood, and somehow remembers us. She says she owes us a debt, and wants to repay us, and we finally learn the name of this sweet little redhead, Heather Poe. Heather offers to stay with us, and honestly, she's so sweet, it's hard to pass up the offer, so we will go ahead and accept. We head inside, and sadly we have to deny a hot date with Chunk because business comes first. Walking into Lacroix's office, he seems to be having a meeting of some sorts. Lacroix wants the details, and when we tell him about the sarcophagus being opened from the inside, he seems to visibly get nervous. Lacroix then explains that the kindred we saw leaving the office were the Primogen of the city. The Primogen are basically the members of different clans that have reached a high rank within the Camarilla. And the reason they were here is because the Malkavian Primogen, Alistair Grout, has gone missing. With the increase of Sabbat activity, the Primogen are on edge, and with Grout missing makes the situation a lot worse. So now we have to go and check up on him. We could go ahead and find Grout immediately, but we have some business to attend to first. Going into the nightclub, we find our troublemaker Patty, and after only speaking 3 words, I'm already done with this chick. Patty is not so subtle and is speaking about what you are and what she is out in the open for anyone to possibly eavesdrop on. She asks us about her master, and let's just tell her we know where he is so we can get her out safely.
You are totally awesome. It just goes to show you that you don't have to dress cute or care what you look like to be a cool girl. So, where is Kent?
Okay, you know what? On second thought, let's just fucking drain her dry. We send her into a dark alleyway where we can finish the job, but first, let's talk to the bartender of this establishment. We meet Venus, and I gotta say, I like her charisma. We learn that Venus has been having trouble and we offer our help. We're gonna go ahead and skip ahead for this quest. It turns out Venus had to take out a large loan from a Russian mafia to start her club, and they purposefully increased the payments to keep Venus in debt. Not only that, but the mafia boss also demands some other things from Venus, and she finally has had it.
I've got a club to run, so I'll be blunt. I refuse to fuck that fat misogynistic old man one more time to hold on to the club.
So our job is to go talk to the boss and break his contract with Venus, and in return, we will be made a partner of the club. Moving on, we find our dear friend, Patty, and drain her dry. The end. Kinda anticlimactic, but hey, she pissed me off. Nearby, we find the apartments of the ghoul Paul that Damsel wanted us to question, and when we enter the room, Paul is already dead. On the answering machine, we find a message from a girl named Hannah, who is really concerned about Paul, and she isn't doing too well herself either. She asks Paul if he could get some medicine for her and really hopes she could see him again. We sneak into Hannah's room and we assure her that Paul sent us to look after her. But we don't mention that he's dead because, I mean, come on, just because we're vampires doesn't mean we always have to be dicks. Hannah mentions that she met a woman that she was totally taken by, which is weird as Hannah isn't into women. She doesn't remember what happened that night or after, but since then she has become sick. Hannah manages to remember the woman's name was Jezebel, and she was staying at a nearby hotel. Sadly, Hannah is about to die from the disease without her knowing it, and she spends her last moments saying how sweet Paul was to her, and she hopes she could see him again. Shortly after, she passes on. This is actually pretty tragic to witness, and honestly, for that, let's go fuck this Jezebel chick up. Before leaving though, we remember that our old friend Muddy was staying at the same apartment. In Muddy's place, we find a message that he's been offered a job, and the meeting place will be at the factory across from the Last Round bar. So now we have a trail to find Muddy. Okay, so heading over to the hotel, we have 2 objectives. beat Jezebel's ass, and potentially murder an entire Russian mafia. Yeah, no biggie. No biggie at all. Entering Jezebel's room, she immediately confronts us, and right off the bat, we can tell this chick is totally crazy. And not like the good kind of crazy, and trust me, I know the good kind of crazy, because my dumbass is attracted to that. Jezebel basically tells you she's going to kill you, but like, sexually. Is that possible for someone to be killed in a sexual way? I mean, Melina from Mortal Kombat is a good example, I guess. Jezebel admits she's purposefully spreading this disease around, and we even find out Hannah was a prostitute, and was targeted because Jezebel finds them to be the best victims to spread the disease around. Also, I would just like to say, please give respect to sex workers and don't be an asshole like Jezebel here, or else I have to do this. Remember, sex workers are humans too. Now with that psychopath dead, let's take care of some communism for Venus. Entering the Russian floor, it's well guarded, and to get to the boss, we have to talk to Russian Guile from Street Fighter. Look man, I don't mean to be rude, but whoever gave him the okay for that haircut needs to have their license revoked. Maybe even their life. After some convincing, the haircut lets us in, and we finally meet Boris. And he's not happy to see us. Surprisingly, he doesn't call us a sicka bliat. That's how you pronounce that, right? Like sicka bliat? You gotta add the blit in there, right? Whatever. When he hears what we have to say, his anger is pretty damn visible. This might get violent. To our surprise though, Boris instead offers you a deal. But, I mean, okay, come on. This man's obviously gonna ask us to kill Venus, and unfortunately for him, I'm petty, and Venus is pretty hot. So I'm gonna side with my PP on this choice. Yeah, things get a little messy when you, think with your PP. Okay, multiple birds dead with one giant nuclear missile of the vampire. So let's head back to Venus and Damsel. Going to Venus first, we are officially made a partner, and we will now have a steady flow of income every few nights. But when going to Damsel, we get some bad news. We tell her we successfully took down the Plague Bear, who also wasn't as cute as she is. Okay, look, if you can't tell, I have a thing for redheads, okay? I mean, we haven't even gotten to my favorite one in the game yet. Oddly enough, Damsel tells us they found another Plague Bear and killed that one too. And to make matters worse, this is the work of some sort of doomsday cult, and we're officially declaring war on all of them. Without a lead to follow, we remember Damsel saying the homeless population might know something, and eventually we're pointing in the direction of a man named Tin Can Bill. Luckily, Bill is right next to that warehouse Muddy was supposed to be at, so let's go on ahead and bust this meat. Fucking hell, that dude is not going to be in Bloodlines 2. In the carnage, a hobo managed to stay hidden, which is actually kind of surprising, and tells us the story. He says there were two men waiting on someone who was running late, and one of them, who we found out was actually our boy Muddy, got tired of waiting and went to find a phone to call him. Because this is the early 2000s, which is also known as a time of great inconvenience. With the other man left alone, the killer revealed himself and took his time ripping open the corpse we saw above. The hobo says it's obvious the killer wanted the man to suffer. We give the hobo the classic "you didn't see shit" talk and send him on his way. Investigating the body, we find a room key to the Lucky Star Motel, but that's gonna have to wait because that's in a different area entirely. Noticing a basketball court and a severed head on the ground, we do the only thing sensible you could do in this scenario. Just so you know, I didn't add that noise, and that actually happens in the game when you score a basket. With that done, let's talk to Tin Can Bill, who isn't doing too good. Oh no. Bill claims he was taken by a monster who grabbed him and dragged him into what Bill calls the bad place. And also I just realized that rhymed, and that was very unintentional. I will be dropping my mixtape soon. Once in the bad place, Bill was bitten and blacked out after that. Since then, Bill has become ill. And that's another intentional rhyme. Unintentional rhyme. Fuck it, I'm just gonna stop doing YouTube and do a rap career. But seeing Bill ill, we already know what's gonna happen here. With his last moments, Bill tells us the monster came from the sewer, and just like Hannah, he dies right in front of us. I'm getting real tired of seeing innocent people die, which is kinda weird because I'm a Tremere and we do some fucked up shit every now and then, but hey, let's not talk about that. In fact, let's go talk about how we're gonna go take care of this. Entering the sewer, we find our culprit, who is Brother Canker, who looks like a stanker. I'm really sorry, I just had to, like, I'm telling you guys, I'm actually gonna start a rap career. So this may be a shock, but Canker is a Nosferatu. I know, with a face like that, who could have guessed? He goes on to spill some info about the Brotherhood of the Ninth Circle, which is a doomsday cult we are now hunting down. If it's not clear enough, their objective is to spread this disease across the world. Unlike Jezebel, Canker chooses the homeless for his targets since they are weaker to him and they have no purpose, so he decides to be an asshole and give them one. Enough talk though, let's kick some Orlok looking ass. Looks like Canker wasn't much of a flanker. Okay, rapping's kinda hard, right? Oh, also, if you're wondering why I'm not freaking the fuck out over Chunk being brutally murdered, it's because that's actually not Chunk. I don't want to go too deep into it, but as a game, Bloodlines had a very, very rushed development, and this will become a lot more apparent later on, but for now you'll notice some assets being reused. On the floor, we find a flyer with a symbol on it, and decide to take it to Damsel. Damsel has seen the symbol before and tells us to look for the buildings that have that mark. Finding a sketchy ass place, we pose as someone who is interested in joining and head inside. Inside, we find a woman who seems to be pretty shaken up. She mentions a bishop is running the show and calls upon followers to visit him at his temple inside the building. From the things the woman has heard, the temple itself sounds terrifying and she is having second thoughts. But you know what? We'll tell her we'll handle it. Going upstairs, we run into some fucking zombies. Are you serious? Yeah, that's right. We got zombies. They're literally trying to eat our ass. And we have to fight our way to the bishop. After going through what feels like a slaughterhouse, we find the leader of all this bullshit, Bishop Vic. So if you could guess by now, Bishop Vic isn't exactly all there, so I'll try my best to understand him. Vic doesn't believe in gods or the apocalypse, mostly because he finds it hard to believe a god will allow monsters like us to exist. Without a god to watch over the world, Vic decided to fill that position himself and said, fuck it, I'm gonna hit the reset button, so we could all go to the place he calls the Ninth Circle together. Unfortunately for Vic, we gotta get a move on with the series, because I'm trying to keep this under 7 parts. So let's kill this fuckboy. With Vic finally dead, the cult is destroyed, and we go back to Damsel, let her know it's all over. And for once, Damsel's actually pretty nice to us and says thanks, even though it looks like she had to physically force herself to do it. Again, I have to stress, I am very petty, and siding with the Anarchs seems more appealing to me because of their ideals, how tight-knit they are, and how I want Damsel to fucking step on me. So we ask Damsel, what can we do to switch sides? Damsel says for now to stay on Lacroix's good side, and feed them information, which, you know what, sounds like a good plan. Now we can finally say bye to Damsel and move on. Oh, that's right, we never told Jack what happened on the ship. After telling Jack about the massacre, Jack says because of his age, he could feel a change in the air, and something is going to happen soon. Oh, and about Jack's age, if you ask the other Anarchs about Jack, one of them will mention he was actually a pirate at one point. I'm going to resist the temptation of making a Pirates of the Caribbean joke, but come on, you have to admit, Jack is cool as shit. Unfortunately, even the flies have to leave the cool shit that they found, and that's exactly what we're gonna have to do. Going over to this pretty hidden building, which I'll admit I actually totally missed on my first playthrough of the game, we head inside and find a man nearly shitting his pants as he's running. This man is apparently the host of one of those ghost hunting TV shows, but claims his crew was taken by some kind of monster. And we have to leave because it's going to find his trail of shit and piss he left behind. We put on our big girl pants and tell him, you know what, chill out, we're gonna handle this. Because I mean, come on, a monster in a universe full of ghosts, vampires, and werewolves? As if. Don't mind that, he just tripped, that's all. Don't mind that either. The laws of physics just happened to break for a second. I'm sure she's fine. Okay, you know what? That dude's dead, alright? Everyone's dead. Everyone just got fucking bodied, and we're probably gonna have to go through a boss fight. Except we don't have a boss fight at all, and we're actually interrupting a very lovely young woman's dinner. The woman claims the fear of death is the true terror of the world, and after asking what she's doing, she basically tells us we drink blood to live and hints that she eats flesh to live. We can't get her real name out of her, but she tells us that we may call her Pisha, a name of a former lover long ago. So the good news is she's single. The bad news is that she requests we send the man down to her because he's seen too much, and to be fair, she has a point. That's a masquerade violation waiting to happen. So, heading through the vent shaft, let's grab this shit. On the floor, we find the card for the same apartments that Muddy and Hannah were staying at, so we gotta backtrack our asses right on over there. Finding the room, the TV host put himself in the closet and is cowering for safety. But don't worry, dear TV host. It turns out you just got fucking pranked, bro, and your crew totally fine. The host laughs his ass off and totally doesn't threaten to kill his crew, and goes on his merry way, totally not knowing that we just straight up killed him. Oh, also, if you look at his desk, you'll find a photo of a Nosferatu feeding. Hey, they can't all be selfie, it happens. Going back to Pisha, she tells us that the man is dead and she ate him. Damn, girl, you got an appetite and a half. Since it seems like we proved ourselves, Pisha asks us to keep an eye out for 2 items she wishes to collect. The first item is inside the local museum, and it's a fetish. No, not like the sex thing, it's like a statue thingy. The second item is a book, and it's in the possession of the Giovanni, who is an entirely different group to go over altogether. Okay, it's been a long while since we sent Heather to our house, so let's go check up on our little sweetheart. Once reunited, Heather is very happy to see us again and very eager to please. But I think it's time we told Heather the truth. At first, Heather thinks we're about to tell her we are married. But once we tell her what we really are, I gotta say, I actually totally love her response.
What? You're joking, right? That's like slang for something like catcher or some fetish term, right? Not like a blah blah vampire, right?
Okay, so at first she's a little disturbed by the revelation, but once told we will take care of her, she suddenly has no problems and yet again is eager to please. If you're wondering why the sudden change in emotions, it's because drinking from a vampire's blood forms what is called a blood bond, which can lead to the receiver of the blood becoming very loyal to whoever is giving it. In Heather's case, that loyalty is created in a form of love and obsession she now has for us, which is actually not unusual to happen in a blood bond. Oh, and yes, vampires could make other vampires go through blood bonds. Still, let's at least make things a bit more genuine, shall we? And get to know Heather. Here we find out Heather is actually a college student majoring in fashion design, although she had to start late because her parents were killed in the car crash. The poor girl has really been through some shit, seeing how she got injured later on, which is why we found her. Okay, with all that settled, now it's finally time to go find that Malkavian and report back to Lacroix. We head over to Grouts Mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and we see our dear buddy Nines leaving the building. Let's say hi to Nines.
You. What are you doing here? No? You should get out of here. This place is bad news. Pardon me.
Okay, that was really awkward. Was Nines, like, way more polite than usual? Whatever, I'm sure it's nothing. So, you know what, let's go ahead and head inside. Once inside, we find a bunch of insane people roaming the mansion, and now we have to defend ourselves. So here's the thing. Grouts Mansion is huge, and it's basically what you would expect a Malkavian mansion to look like. There's unique interior design throughout the house, Scooby-Doo-like puzzles that involve lights and electricity, and a asylum used to hold the clinically insane so Grout can do experiments on them for his research. Not gonna lie, that last one caught me off guard just a bit. So throughout the houses, we find tapes left by Grout that describe his journey to becoming a primogen of the city. Grout had a wife that grew fatally ill and devoted himself to saving her. But he was embraced, and that gave him a new obstacle to deal with, which is his newfound obsession with blood. Grout ran solo for a long time, until he found the Camarilla, and he decided if he wants to learn more about his condition, he had to join them. Grout wasn't a fan of kindred superstitions such as Cain and Gehenna, and he cared more about scientific evidence, which eventually led to him becoming a valued member of the Camarilla through his research. Around this time is when his Malkavian derangement started to develop. Because remember, all of the members of that clan will develop an illness of some kind because of their bloodline. Grout's derangement was rather unique. He heard voices, but the voices would come from people he had spoken to that day, and would often tell them the intentions of that particular person. Some of the voices even warned Grout of dangers, which happened one day when he noticed a certain kindred began to keep an eye on him. See, Grout never named this kindred, but claims the voices told him this kindred saw Grout as a threat, and wanted him taken out. This obviously made Grout paranoid, cause, okay, imagine a bunch of voices straight up telling you you're about to get clapped, consistently throughout the day. So Grout secluded himself to his mansion with his studies, and getting ready to protect himself from the threats the voices kept telling him about. Still, no worries. We're here now, so let's tell Grout we can help him out with this little... Ah, shit. We find a corpse tied to the bed with a stake right through the chest. And there's no doubt about it. This is our Malkavian. Suddenly, an explosion goes throughout the house, and when we leave the room, we see shit's on fire. And a man is yelling at us for some reason. The man is basically telling Grout to go get fucked, and when we tell him Grout already got fucked, he seems surprised that he's already dead and wishes he could have done it himself. The man in front of us is Grunfeld Bach, and he is our first look at a vampire hunter. Too bad we can't stay here cause shit is on fire, and we seriously need to get out of here. After running a flaming marathon, we finally escape the mansion. And you know what? Now I think is a good place to end the video cause I mean come on. Running around in a flaming mansion is a pretty damn good set piece to end on. Tune in next time where we break into a museum, meet my favorite redhead in the game, and oh yeah, we're going to fucking Hollywood, the land of literal piss and shit in all of its glory. But to see that, make sure you're subscribed and turn on the bell notification, cause this along with another game I'm planning on playing will be the only things covered on this channel for a bit. I think next episode will actually be the halfway point, and the second half of the game is much faster than the first, so we're almost done. Oh shit, did my voice crack there? I'm not gonna edit that, fuck that. Anyways, I'm Chris from Genuine Chill, and thanks for listening to me ramble about cool shit.